Royce, welcome to the Bulk Truth, your show. It's yours.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Oh, doing great.
Awesome. Exciting. What's going on at CADARO and opportunities happening. I was the other day, I was talking to one of my clients, and they specialize in pumping stations and water valves and gas valves. And I, um, I told him it took like 30 seconds for the light bulb to go off to him that you guys have something equivalent for dry bulk goods. And he was impressed. Immediately, he goes, wow, that's cool. So you're on to something cool, according to him.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now you're the expert in all fields.
Yeah. Yep. So today's topic is the automation gap. Why smart facilities still struggle to automate. And let's talk about why that's important. What you run into this often, obviously. So let's talk about it.
Yep. So in some of the plants that we visit, I mean, they've got fairly sophisticated systems put in place to automate, but in many cases, they're still estimating. Um, and they're automating off an estimate or an assumption. And I find that that's, really they start with bad information or a bad assumption, and it just multiplies through the system. And so that creates the opportunity for CADARO.
I haven't asked this question before, but what other automation systems are in place generally at these plants?
Yeah, so depending on if it's in process, so a processing facility, normally they're going to have various equipment stages of the process that they're monitoring and potentially automating from, as far as the speed, controls on valves, other equipment. And so, those are the type systems that we run into regularly.
Awesome. I'm going to pull up the infographic for today. This looks awesome, by the way. Good work. So when we're looking at this, kind of take us through the story, just the high level narrative, and then I'll ask all the questions along the way. So top to left.
Yeah, so it really starts with visibility first. So where today people may be making assumptions or estimates, it really the better starting point is a good quality measurement that you can have trust in, and then start building in the controls and the automation from that measurement. So something that's continuing to develop within CADARO is our measurements are really creating an opportunity for operational intelligence. So you think about operational intelligence, so that one measurement, how it multiplies through the process as far as what they can do with that measurement, and what it's going to mean on the final result as far as the yields and the quality of the product that they're producing.
We don't say it enough, but CADARO, when this system's implemented, it's within plus or minus 1%. That's how accurate this measurement is.
Correct.
We're getting that visibility. This is giving you extreme visibility, accurate visibility at any time, even in different environments, moist, dry, mixing, all sorts of stuff. And it's crazy how this is a lever of insight, basically.
Yeah. And really that insight is based on those measurements and that flow rate. As soon as it's installed, people start understanding their process. So today, where they may be measuring, the back end, and they know, okay, here's the amount of time. I ran for a 12-hour shift. Here's what I produced. Here's my average flow rate or our average production per minute, whatever that might be. But once they put one of these sensors in, they get visibility to what's happening at any given instant. And so they start seeing that, there's part of the time we're operating way up here, but then we have all these periods of time that we're down here, whether that be within the shift or across shifts. And so with that visibility, all of a sudden they can start taking actions based on those measurements and start equalizing the process before they even integrated in for automation.
So this starts to give you what you call data-driven management for the blender process, the silo process.
Yeah, so all those measurements then starts enabling a customer to be proactive as far as managing versus continuing to be reactive and reacting to what occurred across the day or the shift or the time period.
Yeah. So we're moving from measurement to proof or prove on here, then scale and automate. In that bottom line there, what's your favorite part?
I think the faster decisions. I mean, at the end of the day, that the fact that they're getting this information and with good skilled operators, they can make a decision faster, and it's an informed decision based on data.
So why do so many automation projects struggle despite the significant investments they've made in their technology?
Yeah, I think it comes back to measurement, right? Having a tool that you can measure. The CADARO flow sensors, what we continue to hear is just the small footprint. They're very compact. The fact that they can fit into tight spaces and they're sized appropriately for each application is something that's unique and different than what's been available in the past. And so again, it's opening doors that didn't previously exist for some of these plants and facilities. And as they get comfortable with that first installation and what it can do, then what we're seeing is then they start scaling in additional sensors and building out the full automation.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, Royce, there was a time in human history where maps weren't, people didn't have Google Maps, right? They didn't have a GPS. They didn't even have a paper map. And so their perspective of what was around and what to expect going forward was whatever it was. And it's different for everybody. And then when people started taking the effort to cartograph or create these maps, then all this other consideration could be included, right? And it seems like this is kind of the same process is what you're doing for these plants.
Yeah. Well, I think back in the days when we traveled with a map, right? You had the bigger picture. So you already had thought that through. I'm going from here to here. Here's roughly how I'm going to go. Now with GPS, right? We're going step to step, right? Exit 83, make a right turn, right? So, in ways, the things that we're measuring really allows you to have those very specific steps to make sure that you get to your destination in the most efficient manner as possible.
Yeah. So now you're helping them recalculating, right?
For sure.
What role does measurement play in building a successful automation strategy?
I think it's the foundation, right? If you have numbers that you can trust and a measurement you can trust, it's going to expand upon that, and it's going to build confidence within the organization. It's going to build, better output, better results over time. And I'm sure there's always learnings, in each facility, in each process, that you're still going to be learning and adapting to what works best for you and your organization. But now it's based on this firm foundation.
I think that there's other what the CADARO process brings are they can start to have other expectations, or they can kind of dream about other improvements. They're kind of stuck in this paradigm of guessing and dealing with that, and then trying to reconcile later at the end of the month or something where we correct, and that slows a lot of things down. But now that when you can know what's going on in real time, there opens up a whole nother possibilities of improvement or scalability.
Sure. And I think you mentioned real time, right? That's the new opportunity. So it's not delayed. It's not at the end. And so again, thinking about how they can be proactive as far as when something's significant enough that they need to adjust or make a change, they can do it in process versus waiting to the end.
Yeah. So what are some examples of how facilities change when they move from manual management to automated management?
I think, what we mentioned with that measurement, they're making faster decisions as they're monitoring, and they get an idea of how they're performing or what they want to see. In many cases, they're reducing variability. So we talked about, they're operating up here, they're operating down here. Ideally, they're squeezing that down into where it gets to be closer to that state that they want to be operating at. And because they have the visibility, now they can see that quicker and they can take action on it faster, and potentially they automate that over time where they feel comfortable. And then, with that, once you've optimized as far as that operating efficiency, ideally you're going to increase your throughput and you're going to see it in your bottom line or your margins.
Tell us a case study. Tell us about. Tell us a story, Daddy.
I think it's developing as we go. So more customers, more plants that we're having conversations are looking at CADARO flow sensors. Number one, to introduce the measurement. But then in the bigger scheme and the bigger approach is now they're starting to look at how they were managing before and put the CADARO numbers up and compare where they were estimating, or building that confidence level to where they could integrate and fully adopt the CADARO measurements into their process. So it's not normal that people just jump all in. They've got their way that they've been operating, and they're bringing the pendulum across and finding a way that is going to work best for them and their operations. But I would say that's by and large, that's how across industries and materials, that's what we're seeing as far as adoption.
So we have talk to us about our purchasing options. We have various ways to engage.
Yeah. So again, the CADARO Complete is a subscription option. So for customers that are wanting to get comfortable with the technology, it gives them a chance to really fill it out or experience that for themselves. And so it's an OpEx expense. So it's a faster payback. And so generally it's easier to sell internally to get one in and start getting an idea that does it deliver as it's claimed, and how does it perform for us in our plant, our materials. And then the other option is they can outright purchase with ongoing support and maintenance.
Cool. And then the various implementations you have the diamond, the veracity.
Correct. So the veracity series are verticals. So whether it be a round pipe or a square chute, we have those to fit into those tight spaces. We have a range from, we can measure down as low as 10 or 20 pounds all the way up to in that case, 20 to 50,000 pounds. And then for the chutes that are on the incline, it's very common that we're using our integral series, and that integral series scales all the way up to 50,000. And so very diverse as far as the size and the scope of what we can measure. And usually we look at the facilities, we look at what we're trying to attach to. We try to reduce the amount of work that's required to fit one of our sensors in. And so it's ideally it's just understanding the facilities and bolting it in, plugging it in, and start measuring.
And then give us a good feel for the types of materials that you're running through this successfully and measuring within plus or minus 1% accuracy.
Yeah, so the technology started in seed, and we've moved across grains, processed grains, and over the last several weeks, inquiries across the board, whether it be minerals, aggregates. So it's starting to expand as far as, and the question is, can you measure this? And so what we've learned over time, if it's dry and it'll flow, generally we can measure it. And so that's usually where we start with customers and improving the technology into new industries and new materials.
When you think about accurately measuring a gas or a fluid, but when it's bulk materials, you're having to have a sensor that's you got all the stuff flowing by, but you can't block it. You got to let it go. So you have to put something in there that's doing math based on the, I guess, the velocity and the intensity.
So for our technology, it's based off of pressure. And so we're measuring pressure on a load cell, and we're able to translate that in our controls and our software to real-time flow rate and weight. So not a lot of moving parts. And so that's generally what we liked about the technology, and it's very repeatable as far as the results.
And it can be up and running within a day.
Yeah, it can. We've had installs that were within 30 minutes. So depending on where we're trying to place it and what we need to connect to, it'd be very quick.
Wow. So in the dark, and then in 30 minutes later, in the light.
There's something to be said. It definitely brings things into the light, positive or negative. It's going to show you precisely what you're doing.
All right. Excellent conversation. Any last comments before we wrap up?
No, my normal sign off. We measure, you manage.
All right. We've got the sexy QR code. If you're wondering what this might look like in your situation, use that QR code. That'll take you to connect with Royce. Royce, what happens when they connect with you?
Yeah, so if they go to the website, the CADARO.com, they can sign up for a site review, and so or a site assessment, so they can schedule a time that fits on both of our calendars, and we can discuss in further detail their operations, what they're wanting to achieve, and where the best placements might be.
You're on LinkedIn as well.
LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We are CADARO. All those spaces.
All the places. It's like you're a legit content producer.
Yeah. Thanks to you.
All right. Great job, Royce. It's hard. You didn't go into business knowing that you're going to have to talk about this online in front of people, but you do a great job.
Oh, thank you. It's fun to talk about what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. CADARO, the bulk truth. Another great episode. And that's a wrap.